Thank you. I hate that. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Board of Selectmen's meeting for September 11th. Please be quiet. Hate to throw anybody out early. Roll call, please.
All 5 selectmen present, town administrator, and town council.
We're going to do something a little different this afternoon. First thing, today is 9/11, and all you know, we lost about 3,000 people back in 2011. We also lost Peter Murphy, and we have
Sherry Lindsay's mother died as well. Passed
So
away.
I'd ask for a moment of silence, everybody, for that as well, please. Thank you. Okay, Pledge of Allegiance. We'll let someone who doesn't do much work in town, Cat, take care of that. We'll give you more work. You love it.
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Announcements. Tony?
Done. Thank you.
No.
Peter? Yeah, you got some.
I got a couple. Let's see, Wareham Cultural Council seeks grant applications. Proposal for community-based projects in the arts, humanities, and science programs are being sought by the Wareham Cultural Council for grants in 2019. Applications should be made online through the Mass Cultural Council at www.mass-culture.org from September the 1st to October 15th. The Cultural Council promotes the availability of diverse cultural programming for all of Wareham citizens. Last year, the council awarded over $6,000 in grants to a variety of cultural events. Okay, next is Treats for a Costume. Recycle old Halloween costumes. The Gleason Family Y is hosting a Halloween costume drive. Recycle your used adult and child Halloween costumes and receive a $3 voucher towards the purchase of another recycled costume at the Y's Recycle Costume event. Reduce, reuse, recycle at the YMCA. Clean out the closet and the playroom. We can take costumes. The costume purchase event will be on Saturday, October 13th, at 2018 at 9:30 a.m. Anyone will be able to purchase a recycled costume for $3 to $10. Use your $3 costume voucher to save even more. That's at the Gleason Family Wide on Charge Pond Road. And that's what I have.
Thank you. We have from Priscilla Porter, Friends of the Wareham Library. Wareham Library Foundation this year is doing Got Talent instead of the usual play that we do, where we all kind of make ourselves look like fools. I think Sandy and I did a good job a couple of years ago. I will drop a copy of the flyer about the next tryout scheduled by the BOS office on Tuesday. Please announce the trials for Thursday of this week at 4 to 7 p.m. at the Wareham Free Library. We also have Historical Society. They are going to have a Historical Society on the 17th, Monday at 7 p.m. at the Methodist Meeting House. They will have an event by a Colonel Arnold Briggs, and the program is on the American Truck Historical Society and a special award. Also, this past Saturday, we had the police department, in particular, Carl Baptiste, put together a really nice event for the community over by the track here. They brought in basically almost every public safety type of organization possible, besides feeding everybody and everything else that goes with it. It was a really good piece where the community got together with the public safety officials and the people that really take care of us, and made for, I think, a closer community knit the way it all worked out. And I'm hoping this continues forward because it was really extremely well received. That's it. Thank you.
Yeah, I thought that was awesome myself. The event was terrific. I went and I had a good time, and the food was good and everything was great, and it was fun to watch the helicopter take off right over our heads. That was kind of cool too when it left around 3 o'clock. It was kind of nifty. I enjoyed the heck out of it.
Good.
All right, citizens' comments.
Mr. Jepson.
I'd just like to add to the announcements that September, this month, is the Brain Aneurysm Awareness Month. Support groups and hospitals will have general information on hand to help educate the public and support material for those impacted by a brain aneurysm. The reason that this cause is so important to me is my son is a survivor, and every day I look at my bracelet and I say thank you. So,
Thank you. Tom?
The past year has been a very good year. Do I have to sit down?
Yeah, on the mic.
Got to use the mic.
They'll hear you.
When I sit down, I can't get up again. That's,
Oh, well, just lift the mic up to you.
There's a couple
Lift
people
the
here
mic
who'll be
up
glad
to
to
you.
help you get
Can
up
you help me?
afterwards.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
okay.
We'll get you up.
But I think it's important that we recognize what a fine year 2018 has been for baseball on the Cape Cod Baseball League, and particularly for the Wareham Gatemen. It started out on the World Series last year, where George Springer was the most valuable player for the Astros. He was a Wareham Gateman. I mean, this is somebody who knows where Cool Cone is, who knows where the Gateway is, who knows where Mark Anthony's is, Minerva's, who knows how to read books in the library, who's been to the Boys and Girls Club, has just become a member, a part of our community for 8 weeks every summer. And then in June, for the Major League Draft, which is a draft of any baseball player in the world, can be chosen in sequence by the worst to best Major League Baseball teams, and the number 1 draft choice and the number 2 draft choice of all of these players were former Gatemen. So there's some pretty good baseball being played around here. And the final thing is that there's several towns on the Cape that like to strut: the Chatham, the Yarmouth, Dennis, Brewster, Hyannis, Falmouth, Bourne, Cotuit, but nobody has strut this year more than the Gatemen. They had the second best record for the season, and they swept the playoffs in 6 straight games. So they were the number 1 baseball team on the Cape Cod League, and the Cape Cod League provides 26% of the Major League Baseball players. So these kids who come to town and go through our town and get to know our people and what we have to offer in town, many of them go on, and I would dare say have made an impression on the people in town, and also have make an impression wherever they go, and they're not afraid to remember that they played on Splain Field. And to help you guys with some starters of conversations along these lines, I'd like to give you a pin that is wearable.
You got up okay?
You got up all right?
I did get up okay.
You did pretty good.
Good job.
Maybe you didn't realize it.
Okay?
Absolutely.
Mary?
Thank you, sir.
Mary has been a host for 2 years?
No, 6.
6 years.
Oh, yeah,
Yes.
a long time.
She's hosted ball players.
You know that my,
You wear these around, when somebody says, oh, what's that pin for? Then you've got something to talk about.
my cousin Nick Tropiano played for the Gatemen, and he now pitches for the Angels. Came through the Gatemen, and he pitches for the Angels.
I mean, it's an amazing asset, and there's not enough recognition for the impact that they
you can
would
put it
have
up.
on the future in getting the positive words out about this town.
Well, Tom, we'd like to thank you. I had actually, after the Gatemen won the championship that day, they were over at the Cool Cone. I stopped in to congratulate them, and I tried to get them to come to the Selectmen's meeting the following day, but for some reason it didn't work out. So I'd like to do something before next season starts. I know the kids were late for school, but, you know, I talked to the general manager and stuff, and we just didn't connect properly. So I want to put something together for next spring before the season starts, and maybe a letter of appreciation for what they've done as well, so don't let me forget. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom.
Okay, Mrs. Slavin, you're last.
Oh, that's a lot of paper.
Yeah, it is. Here we go.
Thank you. Good evening, Sandy Slavin. A couple weeks ago, Alan and I took our subs down to Little Harbor thinking we'd have a nice, quiet evening watching the sunset. Number one, we parked next to a group of 4 women who had come down to watch the sunset, and they were loud and very vulgar. Not a good beginning. Then we watched a man who had been out in the water come in with a huge basket of quahogs. Not a good second story. Then we watched a man walk the whole length of Little Harbor, then back the parking lot with his dog and no doggy bag. That's the third thing. Then we had 2 women who took a bag of trash to their car, drove away, leaving the bag of trash in the parking lot. Fourth thing. So I went up with Alan being, don't trash Wareham, always has garbage bags in the car, and I picked it up. And out came this charge slip. So whoever owns debit MasterCard 1963, I have your receipt for something you bought at CVS for $39.99, and you can pick it up in the town meeting. But it was nice evening, nice sunset, no bugs, and 4 things. And then the next thing that happened is the garden club is working on weeding out the bump outs. Well, I sat down to weed, and there was a pile of doggy product left in the middle of the trash. I don't know what, we can't do anything about it, but it was just, oh darn, one more thing that just, why? Pick up after your dogs, don't walk your dogs on the beach, watch your language, pick up your trash, and don't do shellfish out of season or in closed areas. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Nope.
Okay.
Board comments?
Tony, any comments?
No, all
outside
set.
of the regular? Mary?
Thank you.
Nope.
Peter?
No.
Just a comment for me. Those of us that are in the Jewish religion, this was Rosh Hashanah the last couple of days. Unfortunately for myself, I had some major things to do today at the state. But again, my religion comes first always, so I wasn't able to attend my Municipal Association meetings. Next week, I will not be here on Tuesday night. We have a holiday called Yom Kippur, which is the Day of Atonement, is what the explanation is. It's one of those wonderful holidays where you have the rare opportunity to fast for 24 hours. Can't carry any money on you, can't drive a car, can't do any business, can't shave, etc. When I grew up in Brookline, the Chinese restaurant at 601 following the holiday was usually completely maxed out unless you had a reservation. But the nice thing about this holiday is you're allowed to ask forgiveness for all your sins. So basically, starting next week on Wednesday, I can go back at it again. Thank you.
That's right, you get forgiven.
You sure for you it's not 2 days of atonement?
No, but I do start
Okay.
about 6 hours early.
All right, I see that it's 7:15. We have no appointments, so I see it's 7:15, and we have a couple of hearings. The first one is the Jug Shop. Let's see.
The jump.
Gentis Company LLD, DBA The Jug Shop, 219 Main Street, Wareham, for a liquor violation. Will be a public hearing with 7:15, and let's see, it's under CMR 204, 2.05. No license for the sale of alcoholic beverage shall be permitted to any illegally of any kind to take place on the licensed property. So we have the police.
Motion to open the hearing?
Second.
Yep.
Tony?
You got that in a
Second.
second?
Yeah.
Roll call.
Mary?
Yes.
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 Yes. You want to swear them in, please? Thank you, Mr. Bowen.
Would everyone who intends to offer testimony before the board please stand and raise your right hand? Swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes.
Thank you. You may be seated.
Go ahead, Kyle. Both of you.
Good evening. Would you like me to start by re-summarizing the first, or just go right to the second?
Second, the first one's already taken care
Okay,
of.
perfect. On July 31st, 2018, approximately 1,500 hours, this detective, along with Detective Dekas, Detective Baptiste, and a 19-year-old underage agent, met at the Wareham Police Station to have a briefing prior to conducting a secondary alcohol compliance check to all liquor stores in the town of Wareham. The underage agent was instructed to enter the store and attempt to purchase a six-pack of Budweiser with money provided by this detective. If alcohol was successfully purchased, the underage agent was to provide me the alcohol and describe the clerk that sold him/her the alcohol. If alcohol was purchased, Detective Baptiste would then enter the store and identify with a license and photograph the clerk that sold the alcohol to the underage agent. Should be noted the underage agent was issued a portable breath test pre and post the compliance check, and both results were 0. At 16:06 hours, the jug shop at 221 Main Street was checked, and a sale was made. The clerk was identified as Adelaide DePonte by Detective Baptiste.
Approximately July 31st, approximately 15:45 hours, I assisted Detective Riley with a second round alcohol compliance check of all liquor stores in the town of Wareham. Detective Riley, using the same 19-year-old underage agent who was used in the first alcohol compliance check on July 26, entered the store and attempted to enter the store and attempt to make purchase of alcohol. I was in a separate unmarked vehicle, observed this juvenile male enter and exit the liquor stores. If a purchase was made, the underage agent would exit the store and return to the unmarked vehicle that Detective Riley was operating. The underage male agent then would hand over the alcohol he had purchased to Detective Riley and give the description of the clerk that sold the alcohol to him. Detective Riley would then contact me with this information. I would enter the store, identify myself, a Wareham police officer, inform them they had just sold alcohol to Amaya, then ask them for identification and also take a photo, and I advised they would be contacted by the town of Wareham. First liquor store to sell alcohol to the underage agent was Jug Shop, 219 Main Street. I observed the agent exit the store with the alcohol. Detective Riley contacted me, informed me that it was the same woman that had sold to the agent on July 26. As I entered the store, the woman waiting on another customer, I advised her she had again sold alcohol to a minor. Her response was, "Bring him in here. You guys are setting me up."
It was not me who did that.
Excuse me, he's testifying you aren't
And
at the
then
moment.
for her identification, she stated, "You will have to wait. I'm waiting on a customer." She then gave me her Massachusetts driver's license, identifying herself as Adelaide DePonte out of Mansfield. The second,
Thank you. Yes, Mrs. DePaul.
Tony, do you have any questions of the
No.
police this time? Mary?
I know you guys said it, I just want to be clear. Everyone was rechecked, right? Every store was
So everyone
rechecked?
was checked the secondary time.
Okay.
Peter?
Nothing.
Can you tell me what the time period was between the first time and the second?
Actually, I do have a question.
26th
The first-
to 31st.
The first one was on the July 26th, and the second one was on July 31st.
So roughly a week later.
5 days.
Correct.
Did you use different agents for the second
It was
round
the
of
same
checks?
as the initial alcohol compliance check.
So the same 19-year-old was sent in?
Yes.
Thank you.
Just for the record as well, the police department did advertise in advance that they would be doing checks.
Correct, yes, we did.
I also have a question, probably a little out of order. Are we going to do this on a constant basis as far as putting out notice that we'll be doing this constantly?
I believe so, yes.
Okay, I'll check with John later, but
Yes.
thank you. I want to make sure the public knows that this is not a one-time or a twice deal. We're going to clean this up one way or the other. Thank you.
Thank you.
Peter?
I would ask the board to take administrative notice of the fact that we did find a violation occurred with this same liquor store, the one that was previously referenced, and that we found so on August 28th, and that falls within the 2-year period we have for look-backs on liquor violations, making this a second subsequent offense, if it is so found.
Your turn.
Excuse me?
But that's a motion, actually.
That's the motion?
Yeah,
Second.
motion to take administrative notice of the
Second.
first.
I think we can just get a...
Finding.
We
Mhm.
don't have to do a roll call on that.
No, that's a simple vote.
Everybody,
Second.
no, second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 500. Okay, Adeline, if you would like to explain your part of the story.
Excuse me?
You can go ahead and explain what you have for your part of the story with us.
What I have to explain is because, first of all, the first time I was shocked, I apologize, and I was hurt, and I was very sick about it, and the second time I couldn't believe it happened again to me, and I'm sorry, and the only thing I can say is not such a thing as perfect people. I'm sorry. We're still doing our best not to happen again. It was 13 and a half years without happened to us. It was not 13 and a half days. That's the only thing I can say.
So do you admit to the facts?
Excuse me?
Do you admit to the facts? You agree with what the police say, that you did that?
I did sell to a
So you admit
age.
to the facts?
Okay,
Yes.
Yes, okay.
thank you.
Peter, do you have a question?
Do you have any questions for the officers?
No, I don't.
Was there?
Not yet. Tony, you have any questions? of
No.
Mary?
I have none.
Peter?
No questions to witnesses, no?
No. Okay, motion to close the hearing.
So moved.
Second?
Tony?
Yes.
Mary?
Yes.
Peter?
Yes.
Patrick?
Yes.
Alan, yes. Hearing is closed.
Yep.
Okay, deliberations. I'm going to do this a little differently because this is a second offense, and I don't think we've done one that I know of in a long, long time.
Right.
Your feelings, Tony, about as far as what we have under our guidelines for liquor license policies, just so everybody knows, 1.14, sentencing guidelines. Second offense is a warning to 30 days. I'm going to ask up front what your feeling is.
Can you say that again? I couldn't hear you.
Yeah, one more time.
Sorry.
Warning to 30 days is what we're allowed to give.
30 days.
Under section 1.14, sentencing guidelines.
Okay, I agree with that, yes.
Do you have a preference for that, between the warning and 30 days,
Warning right now,
for the second offense?
warning.
Mary?
We said before, we're not going to keep doing this. I think we were very easy when we could have done a week for the first offense, and we did 2 days. These guys work hard to do this work, and I'm not going to waste their time dragging them in here to just give people slaps on the wrist every time. Second offense, same clerk, same person. I would go for 30 days.
I agree.
Peter?
You know, I have to say that, you know, one time can be a mistake. Second time, clearly not asking for ID is a business decision. And my recommendation would be 2 weeks.
Patrick?
I totally agree with 30 days, and I'll tell you why. One, there was a 5-day separation. Two, it's the same same person who went in. So you not only sold to them the first time, but then you sold them the second one. As far as I'm concerned, that's just blatant. And as far as I'm concerned, and I'm one who believes, and I think we gave him a slap in the, in the wrist the last time around for most of these. And, when the first time you do it, I think everybody deserves a break. Errors can happen. But not 5 days apart, not like this. This is just blatant as far as I'm concerned, and deserves 30-day suspension. And I suggest the suspension start on December the 2nd, and end 30 days later.
Take them through Christmas.
Do you want more discussion?
Yes. You have anything else you want to say, Peter?
Yeah, I will say that this board, the first round, took great pains to impose a light sentence, and we did it during the middle of the week. I think for subsequent offenses, the sentence does need to be more stiff, and it needs to come at a less opportune time for the business to send the message that you just can't screw around with this stuff.
All right. We basically have, at this point here, 2 30s, 1 warning, 1 14. I'm going to need a motion.
I make a motion that we do 30-day suspension beginning December the 2nd.
Second.
Any discussion from the board?
I have 2 teenagers. We have, just this past summer, we had 5 more with Gateman players. It takes a village, and I need people to help me out, not selling to minors.
Yep.
Any other comments?
Nope.
None? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? 500. Thank you.
So it will be from December 2nd to January 2nd?
Yep.
30 days.
30
Okay.
days.
Thank you. I'm ready to go?
All set.
You're all set.
Next case.
Okay. Next up is Sullivan's Wine and Spirits. I move that we open the public hearing for,
Second.
hold on, let me read it out. DJ Sullivan's LLC, DBA Sullivan's Wine and Spirits, 260 Marion Road, Wareham, for a liquor violation under 204 CMR 2.05. No license for sale of alcohol beverage shall be permitted. And this is a first offense violation under Chapter 138-64.
Need a motion to open the hearing?
I just did.
You did? Second? Tony?
Yes.
Mary?
Yes.
Peter?
Yes.
Patrick?
Yes.
Alan, yes.
If I could just introduce, I'm John Amabile. I'm an attorney. I'm representing the defendant, and this is Mr. Don Sullivan and Mr. Joel Sullivan.
problem.
No problem.
Thank you.
Rich, you want to,
Swearman.
You swear everybody in?
Would everyone who's going to testify please stand and raise your right hand? Swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Thank you. You may be seated.
okay. Same as last time.
Okay, on July 26, 2018, approximately 3 o'clock, this detective, along with Detective Sergeant Smith, Detective Dekas, Detective Baptiste, and a 19-year-old underage agent met the Wareham Police Station to have a briefing prior to conducting an alcohol compliance check of all liquor stores in Wareham. The underage agent was instructed to enter the store and attempt to purchase a 6-pack of Budweiser with money provided by this detective. If alcohol was successfully purchased, the underage agent was to provide me the alcohol and describe the clerk that sold him or her the alcohol. If alcohol was purchased, Detective Baptiste would then enter the store and identify by license and photograph the clerk that sold the alcohol to the underage agent. At approximately 5:32 p.m., Sullivan Wine and Spirits at 260 Marion Road was checked. A sale was made, and the clerk was identified as Michael Domingos by Detective Baptiste.
On July 26th, 2018, at approximately 1600 hours, I assisted Detective Riley with alcohol compliance check of all liquor stores in the town of Wareham. Detective Riley, using a 19-year-old underage male agent, entered the stores and attempted to purchase alcohol. I was in a separate unmarked vehicle, observed the juvenile male enter and exit the stores. If a purchase was made, underage agent would exit the store, return to the unmarked vehicle that Detective Riley was operating. The underage agent would hand the alcohol that was purchased to Detective Riley, give a description of the clerk that sold the alcohol to him. Detective Riley would then contact me with this information. I entered the store, then identified myself as a Wareham police officer, informed them that they had sold alcohol to a minor. I would ask for identification, also take photo of the third store to sell alcohol to this underage agent was Sullivan Liquors, 260 Marion Road, Wareham. I entered the store with the description that was given. I observed the gentleman in the aisle. I observed this gentleman in the aisle assisting the customer. After he had assisted the customer, he returned to the front counter where a female clerk was standing. I advised this gentleman that he had sold alcohol to a minor. The female clerk immediately stated, "Not me." I then informed the male clerk that he was the one that was identified, and he stated in the green pickup truck, "My day has been made." He then said, "Forget it. I won't say any more, but I apologize." I then asked him for identification. He gave me his Massachusetts driver's license, identifying himself as Michael Domingos. I also took a picture of Mr. Domingos.
Thank you. Any questions from the board, Tony? Mary?
No.
Peter?
None for the police.
Thank you.
We don't have any questions of the police officers, and we're not contesting that a violation occurred as described by the police officer. So we're,
You're admitting the facts?
Excuse me?
You're admitting the facts?
Admitting the facts.
Okay,
yes.
thank you.
I just would like to ask them what they're going to do to make sure it doesn't happen again.
My client.
Yes, please.
Well, first of all, I want to, on behalf of Mr. and Mrs. Sullivan, thank you for postponing the hearing, which was originally scheduled with the other ones. My client and his wife had a long-standing trip planned to the Grand Canyon, and we appreciate the courtesy in allowing us to have a...
Can you speak into the mic?
Got to speak a little
We
louder.
appreciate the courtesy in allowing us to have a short postponement for the hearing. I'd just like to maybe question Don Sullivan a little bit about the issue you've just raised. Mr. Sullivan, how long have you been in business?
15 years.
Okay. And has there ever been any violation before this particular evening?
No.
Okay, now, the person in question, Mike Dominguez, how long has he worked for you?
12 years.
And how would you describe him as an employee?
Excellent. He shows up all the time. He seems to cover everything.
And this is, and he's never made this kind of mistake in the 12 years he's worked there?
Nope.
What's been his status since the violation?
He's been suspended.
Okay. Now, you heard, I think, in the earlier hearing that there was a second attempt to purchase alcohol shortly after the first attempt. Are you aware of that?
Yes.
And what happened then?
They caught him.
Okay. Now, is there a video system in the store?
Yes.
And your employees are monitored all the time, is that correct?
Yes, they are.
Now, did you take any steps in terms of, first of all, are your employees tips trained?
Yes.
How many employees do you have?
Approximately 15.
Okay. After the incident, when was the next time that your staff was scheduled to have their tips training renewed?
We closed the store that Sunday morning, and 8 o'clock we had a full-fledged mandatory meeting.
Okay, so in other words, originally they weren't scheduled for retraining until November, is that
Correct.
correct? But instead on July 29th, which was a Sunday, is that correct?
Yes.
You closed the store for the morning, is that
Yes.
true?
We sent notice to the police department and the selectmen.
Okay,
We're
and,
closing the store.
okay, and you had a tips trainer come in and retrain your entire staff, including you, is that correct?
Yes.
So is Sunday in the summertime a busy time for the store?
Sunday morning, they all want to get to the boat pretty quick.
So it's fair to say you essentially penalized yourself with a morning closure on a weekend day, is that correct?
Yep, it was more important to do that.
I have the training roster. I'd like to introduce that.
Yeah.
You want to give it to me,
Yeah, give it to the clerk.
Thank you.
If I could interject. If I could interject.
I just want a question.
I don't have any more questions for Mr. Sullivan.
I just have one question. Going forward, there's different programs in which, basically through the cash register, et cetera, there's certain ways you can sit there and ask for ID automatically and someone hands it to you and you can check through to make sure it's done that way. I know when I was very young, before most everybody else was born here, I used to work in the liquor industry in Blanchard Liquors in Harrison Ave in Boston. And the laws were a little different. I used to have to ask everybody who came in that didn't know, do you work for the ABCC? And if they did, they had to answer yes before I sold them liquor, because back then we were discounting liquor and you couldn't do that back then. So that's how you got around it. So it's a system that's been in place for a long time. Manually, now it's automatic.
Well, Joel, who's the manager, could speak to that in terms of the equipment they have.
I'm just asking because we've had two other people with violations that came to us last meeting, and they both had systems. One of them just wasn't using the system, and the other one, the system was turned off for some reason.
If I may,
Sure.
we've had an ID checker in there for, close, 14 years. and apparently he just didn't use it. And to force this issue, we've gone into the POS program, and we're going to set up a program, a new one we're buying right now, that forces them to scan their license as well as their credit card at the same time, so that it forces them to check the IDs.
Thank you, I appreciate that. Peter? That's it.
I just wanted to, I know that the notice was sent out to the selectmen about the partial closures, so you could train, and to my way of thinking, that shows you were taking the matter seriously. I appreciate the upfront approach to it.
Zero tolerance. It's unexcusable.
If I could just, I understand that there's been a 2-day suspension in the other situations that are similar, and I would just like to say, advocate that you consider a 1-day suspension in this situation. And the reasons I would put forth is, first of all, they have been a licensee for substantially longer than any of the other folks that were before the board, and have no prior incident whatsoever in the entire 15-year period that they've been a licensee. They're very good citizens of the town of Wareham. The business that they've been running contributes to all of the sporting teams and are always willing to lend a hand and that kind of thing. And they did essentially penalize themselves. I think Mr. Sullivan was absolutely shattered by the idea that there had been a violation, has always tried to make sure there wasn't one, took immediate steps, including forfeiting Sunday morning revenue on the Sunday immediately following the incident. And given the fact that their license has been in effect for, I believe, for in all instances, more than twice the length of all of the other licensees without an offense, and that they've taken a financial hit already, and have the program they implemented the Sunday after it cost almost $800, that you consider a 1-day suspension midweek instead of a 2-day suspension.
Tony, any questions?
No.
Mary?
Nope.
Peter?
No questions.
No, I'm good.
Just go back to your comments on the 1 day.
Lean forward, they can't hear
Sorry.
you.
We set a very lenient policy of 2 days in the middle of the week. By changing and taking different things into account, it's really not in my opinion, it's not the way to do things. We could have gone 7 days without anything. We actually, the way the mass law is, we can go as long as we want, and we can put other conditions in. When our chief of police tells us that Wareham's known as a place to come for kids to buy liquor, we've decided that we're not going to allow this to happen anymore. And we can't sit there and have the police go and do what they're doing and then, do something different here, something different there. We have to be consistent. I have no doubt, because I know Mr. Sullivan, I've done business with both his shop and also, the shop down the street they sold recently. And I know they do a lot of work for the town. But at the same time, we have to be consistent in what we do. That's just my opinion personally. Anybody else, any comments?
No. I move we close the public hearing.
Second.
Tony?
Yes.
Mary?
Yes.
Peter?
Yes.
Yes.
Alan? Should I get a recording for this?
Deliberations.
Okay. Tony, your feelings?
I'd lean towards a warning.
Leaning towards 1, yeah.
Mary?
I think we do need to be consistent because everyone else had 2 days. These guys did voluntarily close for 1 day ahead of time, so it's 2 days no matter what. So I would go for 1 day.
Peter?
We did hear from the others that they also took measures. Perhaps that didn't involve closing the store to train the employees, but aside from one of the others, which clearly wasn't as penitent as they might have been. And two of the others did say they were taking additional steps. So I kind of side with the chairman on this one. I think we need to stick with the 2 days just to be consistent. But that doesn't mean I don't appreciate the efforts that your clients have put forward.
Patrick?
Yeah, I totally agree with Peter and you on this one. I think I really appreciate Mr. Sullivan going the extra mile and retraining his people and so on. I know Mr. Sullivan, and he's a really upstanding gentleman. I know he probably took this harder than most people. But still, in keeping consistency, I think the 2 days in the middle of the week, which really isn't bad, it's October, what, 2nd and 3rd, is that what it was?
Yeah, that's what we did.
2nd and 3rd, which is a Tuesday and a Wednesday, which I think isn't really that big a deal. And like I said, we could have gone 7 days with a lot of these guys. So I'd suggest that we keep the October the 2nd and 3rd. Matter of fact, I'll make the motion that we do October 2nd and 3rd of 2018 with the same caveat for everybody else that they post a sign.
Mr. Bowe, before we have a
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I realize that the setting of penalties is exclusively your province, and
Right.
I won't comment on that. But just in furtherance of Selectman Bruce's comments, if you wanted to entertain her proposal, but we're also concerned about consistency, you could impose a 2-day suspension and suspend one of the days based on what they did. So that would, in effect, carry out, I think, what Mary had in mind. But that's purely at your discretion.
2 days.
Mary wants to-
Alan?
Go ahead, Jim.
They also took a voluntary day off during the peak season, so it's instead of being off in October. I just appreciate people that take these steps ahead of time. We hate doing this, you know?
Yeah, it's not what we're here for, but that's what we need to do, basically, at the end of the day.
Yeah,
We
no,
have a motion. Do I have a second?
motion for the 2nd and 3rd of October.
Yeah, I'm actually thinking whether I want to second the motion or whether I want to do the suspend 1 day.
Do you want to remove your motion, let Mary make hers? Your call.
Yeah, it's up to you guys. I mean, I
Well,
don't,
there's no
Yeah.
second, there's no
and
second.
if somebody wants to go, just no second, so
No.
ask somebody else to make a motion.
Mary, you want to make a motion then?
I make a motion that we suspend their license for 1 day with the, well, how do you say it? 2 days with the,
October 2nd and 3rd with a suspended sentence for the
Suspended
October 3rd. Yeah.
Say that again, please.
We're going to suspend the license for 2 days.
2 days.
But at the same time, we're going to suspend the suspension for October 3rd.
Yeah.
Wow.
There you go.
Do them closing for half
Do
a
them
day
closing for that. Okay.
and stepping up and doing what they had to do.
All right.
Is that a good explanation?
Yeah.
Mr. Bowen?
This is...
And yeah, I'm sorry. You know, and if you wanted to, you could put in the kind of language that one often sees in district court on Monday mornings, which is that if there is a further offense within the 2-year period, that suspended day
Comes back.
comes back.
Yeah.
We have the
here,
ability.
you make the motion.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't think we need to add that the 1 day comes back. I mean, we'll deal with that as a separate incident.
I think they've seen what happens to second
You
offenders in
see
2
what happens
years.
on the second offense, you don't
Yeah,
want
it's not
that to
pretty.
happen.
We have a motion from Mary. I need a second.
Second.
Any
There you
questions
go.
from the board? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained?
Abstained.
500. Hope never to see you again.
Never.
And thank your attorney for fine advocacy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd like to thank the police department again for what the job they do, and
Thank you very much.
Yes.
we expect to, unfortunately, probably see you more often.
We'll be
Yeah.
here.
Thank you very much.
All right.
I'd like to make one comment to the public in general. The police have become very active and continue to be very active in going forth as far as different violations. Department of Public Inspections, the director and stuff, is busy in court almost every Monday and is going after all kinds of different violations. Board of Health is doing the same thing. Wareham has unfortunately been known for years as a place where, don't worry, do whatever you want. The worst thing they'll do is they may fine you $100, if anything at all. That day is gone. Thank you.
After all, it's where you buy, right?
We're gonna know the 1 days?
All right, let's do the 1 days.
Thank you.
Hold on, you ready? All right, let's see, we've got 1, 2, 3 of them. They're all at the Dudley Brown onset VFW in the pavilion, it appears, licensed onset VFW pavilion, okay? So I'm gonna just do them all. The first one is for September 16th, 2018, with a rain date of September 23rd, 2018, from noon to 6 p.m. It's all alcoholic. The next one is September the 30th, 2018, from 2 to 7, and that's all alcoholic. And the last one would be September 15th, from 2 to 9, and that is also all alcoholic. I move we approve them, obviously.
Need a second?
Second.
We do.
Just for information, Paul Rose is not here because we do these all during the year, and there's no reason Mr. Rose to be here constantly for the same exact thing. Also, just for the public's information, the facility that they have has a separate piece for the pavilion versus the actual facility in there. So if they use the pavilion, the alcohol and stuff has to be counted separately. It can't be part of the alcohol that belongs to the actual building itself, just so everybody understands. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? 500. Thank you.
Next would be the school committee MSBA group.
Yeah.
Come on down. You waited long enough. Isn't this fun?
Mm.
Just think, we don't have to find anybody.
You could have watched it home on TV even. I love the looks I just got.
They were watching TV, it wouldn't be us.
Yeah.
There's been a problem with the circuits on that bottom level there, over here, because the air conditioners, when I came in, 2 of them weren't working. I changed the outlet for one of them, and it worked, but the other one didn't have an option, so you may want to take where the plug is, if there's nothing there, and move the plug down to another outlet, another whole unit, just in case. Not that one there, Tom, that's the air conditioning. That one there.
This one, yeah.
Now, if you bend over too far, I'm not picking you up. Try that there.
Movie time.
It's almost like it's a circuit, there's like a circuit breaker or something. It's really weird. Try that now. You got any power?
All right,
Oops.
try the bottom plug.
Yeah.
Bend down a little further.
No, that's not gonna be good.
Never gonna get up now.
God. No good, huh?
You're gonna have to go down to the one where the air conditioner is, because we know that one
Can you
works.
Get enough lead to go to another one, Tom?
You can always unplug the air conditioner for a couple minutes.
Yes. That's in the capital plan.
Make a mistake, I have a hold of
Try that. We know that one's live right now.
There you go.
Okay.
All right,
Mr.
let there be
Sullivan,
power.
People know we got circuit problems on that. Well, these.
You may. Shit. Okay. Listen, no shit.
Didn't hear you.
Do you want me to say it in the microphone so you can hear it?
That's his payback. That's his... He's been picking on me all the last couple of days.
He has. I'm sure he has. He's been picking on everybody.
Can somebody hit the lights back there, please?
3 times in the redevelopment authority meetings and that.
Thank you.
Back and forth.
You talk right into that sucker.
All right. Well, good evening. Thank you again for having us. So we've now been at it for roughly 2.5 years since the statement of interest was submitted to the MSBA. The project team being PMA, myself, owner's project manager, Mount Vernon Group, have been on board for pushing 1.5 years now. So made a lot of progress, and we are nearing the end of the feasibility study. So on the project timeline here, you can see that we are really 3 major milestones. Let me just jump right to the next one, as I want to give you guys the latest and greatest site plans, floor plans, spend our time there. So 3 different submissions, right? Preliminary design program, all the options, preferred schematic report, we select the preferred option, and then schematic design is when we develop that option, and then ultimately we need to identify the project scope and budget. That's an agreement that gets locked into with the MSBA, has to again be approved by their board of directors, and that's an upcoming milestone on December 12th. Also in there, and we'll get into some key dates, we're looking for local funding authorization, so that's in the form of a town meeting and also a ballot question. And we'll touch on those in a moment, but let me turn it over to Mount Vernon Group, who can update you on design progress since the last time we met.
Thanks, Chad. Hi, I'm Dennis Staley, Mount Vernon Group Architects. And we've been going through the process, working with the building committee to sort of identify everything that we need to have on the site. We've talked to public safety, looking at the needs of the fire department in terms of the placement of hydrants, lighting around the building, working with the police department and so forth, and trying to bring everything up to speed. Generally, what these sorts of plans represent is a place for everything and everything in its place in terms of the major areas of the site. To the far right is the parking, which would be for staff and visitors. In the center, there are paved play areas, but what we've done is put some lines on there to see if, when used for parking, since they are paved, roughly how many cars can fit in there. And then all the rest of the parking and circulation, we've been working out with the authorities, and they're also looking at putting a traffic signal down on Minot Avenue at the where the middle entry and exit are. And the floor plan update. So we've been working with the committee to develop floor plans, and the committee's really been very enthusiastic in participating with us in doing this, and it's really good because by having such people as teachers and administrators on the committee, people can bring a real lot to the table to help make the school something special and quite specific to what the real needs are at the Minot Forest and Deacon schools. So we have spent much of our time massaging the floor plan to make sure that we have everything that's needed. And I think the biggest and most dramatic step that we've accomplished is really sorting out the community work areas or the teaming areas within the each classroom space. And I think that we have enthusiastic support from the committee on how that's going to work. It's going to be a very dynamic school designed for project-based learning. This is the first floor plan, and this is the second floor plan. And really the showcase of this school is the concept of the hub of the school, which is what in the old days one would call the library of the school, but it's much more than that now, because with project-based learning and such things as STEAM, which is science, technology, engineering, mathematics, and art, and also including, in this particular case, STREAM, which gets reading into it as well. We're able to create this innovation hub, which will feature the STREAM room, as well as technology rooms and art rooms in a shared space that has a lot of flexibility where spaces can be opened up. It's central into the school. It's a close walk for all students, and it really does serve as a hub. It's quite an insightful thing that was brought to the table by the administrators here in Wareham, and we're delighted to be able to work on such an exciting idea. The very lowest floor of this project is pre-K and kindergarten, and it's kind of it provided us with an opportunity, because of the way the site is set up, to have a lower floor that sits underneath an otherwise symmetrical school in terms of everything that happens above for grades 1 through 4. But having the pre-K and K offered the ability to provide its own special entrance, its own special scale, and then that also affords the ability to have different scheduling and so forth. After doing so, we looked at several different ways of how the exterior facade might work, and we brought ideas and to the committee last a couple weeks ago with just general ideas. Hey, what kind of sort of flavor are we looking for to bring to Wareham? And we looked at something that's quite contemporary looking. And the committee liked the idea that the Innovation Hub had a lot of glass in that one. Another one was a more staid, quiet approach, and a third approach was sort of, this shows more views of that. And a third approach was kind of a more dramatic but traditional approach. There were things about that approach that the committee liked, but they felt, as we do in the office, the more we worked on it, that the entry seems to be a little bit over dramatic for an elementary school. And so we went back to the drawing boards, and we're starting now to work on a fourth scheme in which we try to bring the best of both worlds together. In this particular scheme, we have a very special entry, which is sort of playful, down at the lower corner for the pre-K and K. And although it's difficult to see here, you'll see a little pointy thing. One of the things that's very important in developing anything anything new in a community that's going to replace something is to try to bring back something of the memory, which is sort of embedded in the local culture. And so one of the things that sort of stood out is the Deacon School has a kind of very period piece, sort of 60s steeple on it, which is, we thought could be a cool thing to preserve and use it because of its playfulness near the entry of the kindergarten, and then create an entry for the rest of the school that is more of the contemporary approach, which speaks to the sort of forward-looking 21st century idea of the Innovation Hub, and bringing a lot of glass to that Innovation Hub. That's all facing north, so you're going to get very clean, consistent light coming from the north there. And then in interior, we're also bringing daylighting down. We've done a lot of research. We have in the past used a product called a light tube, which brings daylight into a classroom and disperses it. And there are now available dimmable ones. One of the issues that we dealt with in dealing with the art teachers and everybody else that's using the Innovation Hub is controlling light. And although north light is really ideal for art, and it's going through a second space and getting there, they like the idea of having very controllable light and also like to be able to darken their rooms. So one of the nice things about these new daylighting things that we found is that, and as I say, we've used them in the past, but now they're available with dimmers. So there's like a rheostat on it, and it actually dims like a regular electric light, but it's really just natural light that it's bringing in and out of the room. So we looked at that. It's much easier than trying to control a skylight or having some kind of big shading device for that. So that's sort of the direction we're heading in. As you can see, we've developed a very large building, and I think if we go back to that, the idea with this is it's a very large building, and we wanted to appropriately scale it by developing something that feels more like a collection of smaller buildings as one looks at it from different directions. There's lots of ins and outs and scaling devices that will help do that. And also speak to some of the ideas and some of the things the seeds that sort of plant themselves in our brains as we work with the town, is that we're dealing with two schools that have served the students of this town for a very long time. And one is a shingle, school, and one is a brick school. And so the idea of bringing in gray brick is sort of being reminiscent of the Deaconess, and red brick being reminiscent of the Minot Forest, mixing them together, and also trying to find other things on the sites and in the schools that we can bring to the project is sort of what we're trying to do. So it's a work in progress, and so I'm glad we were able to show you tonight how this development is working.
So we are very curious to hear your feedback. Before we do that, I will just quickly run through the dates, and I apologize, they're cut off a bit on the left there. But right now, we're in the middle of schematic estimates. The schematic estimate package came out last Wednesday, and it's currently with the estimators. We have 2 independent estimators that are both reviewing, independent of each other. Takes them about 2.5 weeks to go through the documents and put a number at it. On September 25th, we'll meet with both of those estimators, PMA, Mount Vernon Group, I think select individuals from the town of Wareham and school department. And we'll go through section by section, item by item of those estimates, and we'll reconcile them right down to the construction cost division in order to have one uniform construction estimate. That estimate's very important because in the MSBA's process, your schematic design estimate is what informs your project scope and budget agreement. So that's what locks in the amount of money that Wareham can expect to be received for reimbursement on the project. Other key dates, October 1st, there's a school building committee meeting to review value management options. So this is really adjusting and fine-tuning scope of the project. It might include a deduct to the cost, such as going to code-required ventilation, or it might include an add, something going to full traditional air conditioning. Currently, we're carrying middle ground on items like that, so we have something called green air conditioning, also called displacement dehumidification systems. So that exercise on October 1st will really, that's where we're going to dial in the budget. And we'll look at the same across everything right down to finishes inside of the building. October 3rd, we need to submit that budget to the MSBA. So we take the feedback from the committee received on October 1st, and we relay that to the estimators, and they update their estimates with the dialed-in project scope. And then on October 17th, the full package is due to the MSBA. October 22nd, we are hoping to be on at town meeting. November 6th, ballot vote, and then December 12th ultimately is the MSBA Board of Directors approval of the project scope and budget and the schematic design submission. With that, open it up to any other comments or questions.
I just wanted to say thank you again for having us here. I think it's really important as we go forward to town meeting to have this line of communication open. I also want to say thank you to Chad and Dennis for doing such a great job. But I want to point out that all these options that they talk about, one other consideration is always cost. So in the building committee meeting, not only are we, looking, at designs, but there's always cost is always part of that discussion and consideration. And I just want to make sure we make that clear. Thank you.
I would certainly second Joyce's comments about cost. I think the frugality of this committee and the diversity of this committee in terms of who's having input into all sorts of things means that we're going to come out with something that will make a lot of sense for the taxpayers as well as the staff and students of Wareham. So rest assured, the interests of the taxpayers are being well represented.
Just that I appreciate all the feedback that we've received. I would also urge people, as we come up to the vote, if they would like to visit Minot or Deaconess, we would like to show them the inside of the building and why we believe our students deserve a new building.
Tony, you have any questions? Mary?
I don't. I wish I knew more about plans. I know what the parking spots are. So you guys are doing a great job. It put a lot of thought into it. I really appreciate all your work.
Yeah, thanks for all the hard work that the school building committee's put into this. I know that what we see here during, 10 minutes is just a snapshot of the hours that you guys put in to get us to this point, so I'm appreciative of the work. Ultimately, it becomes a political question, and that means getting votes. And so you've got, you've got a lot of work ahead of you to get this through to fruition, especially on November 6th.
Yeah, the committee's doing a great job. They work diligently and hard, and I've missed a few meetings in recent times because for some reason or another, I couldn't figure out why usually I was getting a notice and it would tell me a little alert and say, okay, you got a meeting tomorrow, right? But apparently I have turned that off, so I just have recently turned it back on so that I've gotten the notice. So I should be there at the next meeting, and continue with the process. But they work hard. They think about everything. There's so many ideas being thrown around. I just love going to those meetings when I'm there because they're doing a really good job. You got to give them all the credit in the world. I really appreciate what you're doing. And the gentlemen over here, although a little monotoned at times, they're terrific at what they do. They really are. They kind of try to focus everybody and try to keep things going. But they're not afraid to change up, which is what's really neat. If somebody says, well, hey, I just had this great idea to do whatever. And they're not afraid to come forward and do something about it. Because you never know. It could cost less money. It could be an issue or whatever. So nobody's been afraid to do new ideas or anything by any stretch of the imagination. I want everybody out there to understand that that's been going on. And, when they see it at the ballot, nobody knows all that. Nobody knows what happened. Nobody cares what happened. And all they usually do is vote on their pocket. Well, if you're thinking about voting on your pocket, that's fine. But you must think about the kids as well. And the kids, the schools are done. They're over. They're finished. And they need to be replaced. And this has been probably one of the best processes, and I want you to know, I sat on the middle school renovation. I remember the high school, when they built the high school. I've been around here a few years. So I know that this has been one very good process, and I appreciate what you guys do.
We've missed you.
Well, I'll be there, don't worry. I kept wondering, how come I keep missing this thing? But I figured it out anyway. I'm not too technologically great at some things.
Looking at the different designs, I get nervous about certain things in life. We go back to our library that was built for, I think, an architectural award rather than a function award, and the windows all basically have gone past usefulness very quickly. It's really major disaster as far as upkeep, etc. So when I see big windows, it makes me nervous. See a lot of glass. We're in a hurricane area. So my only comment is when we design things, we have to remember that across the street we have a lot of trees, and we have a lot of pine trees, etc., disease, which become flying objects in a severe storm. So you need to look very carefully at what you're putting in there, because my concern is sustainability. I want to have to come back in 20 years and have major projects, because it's pretty embarrassing when that happens. The other piece is when you have certain things that are not allowable as far as your reimbursement from MSBA, I'm going to make an assumption, bad word to use, that if you want a traffic light on Minot Ave, the town's probably going to have to pay for all that.
That's correct.
So the only thing I'm probably going to ask is that figure out as best you can what the budget is, so when people vote, when they see the percentages, but they see the dollar numbers, they don't jive. So you really got to hit home to make people understand that there are certain things we can't get reimbursed for.
Yep.
So it's important, because that will turn some people off when they think it's this percentage and it doesn't, that the numbers don't come that way. And probably basically give a number of the average tax bill increase over 20 years, if that's what we're going to do. Because we have to sell this and we have to explain it. And at the end of the day, we have a population base that are a lot of retirees, and it's hard to get them to spend money what they don't have. Thank you.
Can I just ask one question? Can I ask you to respond about the window issue? Because the windows today are a lot different than they used to be in the old days. Like, these windows can take a hell of a hit. And could you explain that, the way they do the windows nowadays?
Do you want to take that one?
Well, yeah, there's any number of ways that we're going to look at these windows. What we want to do is bring a lot of glass to this innovation hub, but that doesn't mean it's going to be 100% glass. As you can see, that there's other things in there. Right now, you can we've developed a curtain wall in which things will be infilled. Some of those places up high and down low near the floor will be infilled with other types of materials other than glass. In some cases, and we'll take some study, sometimes up high, for instance, one might use a material which is a glass material called spandrelite, but it's really a spandrel material, but it has a glass piece on the outside, so it gives you the effect of the glass. Down low, you want to have something solid, but to become part of the whole look, you have it fit into the curtain wall. So this is some of the study we'll be doing, and also in the vertical areas. We have some solid panels in the vertical areas already, and we might be looking at how that module works and to break it up. But at this point in time, we're saying, yeah, we want a big glass look up here, and we want, a more solid look in this part of the building. And as I say, it's a work in progress. And so, and during design development, which we're working into now, we'll be doing a lot of that. And that has to do with the site as well. The site, is, as it's shown now, is just very raw, putting everything in its place, but we're working diligently now to put all the planting in the site, the softscapes, the hardscapes, and all the rest.
I'm just looking for long-term sustainability.
That's always our focus. We are going to be shooting for northeast chips, and all of our projects do receive either chips or lead points, depending on which we go with, and they're always of a very high order. Sustainability is very important to us.
Thank you.
The only thing that I will add to that, so we're using tried, tested, and proven products. So the windows that you see here and are carried in the schematic set are traditional double glazed. We don't have any suspended heat film or anything like that that's prone to failure. These are tried, tested products that are known to survive the test of time.
And that we've used on our products.
That's what I'm asking for. Any other questions from the board?
No,
Thank you very much.
Actually, all I'd like to add is that, to Peter's point, education is one of our biggest jobs right now. And so we have scheduled community forums where the members of the building committee will be there, as well as the project manager and the architect. And I'm sorry I don't have those dates. Maybe Chad does. He's good with the
Yep,
dates.
there's one October 13th at the Wareham Free Library at 10 o'clock in the morning, and then there's one October 15th in the middle school library auditorium.
No, auditorium.
Yep. And that one's later in the evening. I want to say 6 o'clock. It's right after the building committee meeting.
And I think there's a third one, too.
Yep, I don't know if we locked in that date yet.
So
Perhaps,
we'll advertise and publish those dates and times, but we just want to make it clear that there will be opportunities for everyone to come ask questions, get all the information, the accurate information that there is.
If you can, try and get a hold of Matt Underhill so we can put it up on the town website.
Okay. There is a dedicated website for the new school project also that is updated frequently. It has all the most recent information.
I just want to reinforce it as much as we can.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks for
Thank
coming
you.
in.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. All right, next up is discussion and vote of green communities. You're going to hate me. Yeah, you are.
No, we're not.
I see a whole folder.
You want to go green?
No, you're going to hate me because, Derek did find a line in here that talks about police being exempt from some of the mileage. The problem is, and I have to ask this question of Derek, is, okay, so you know that we take a lot of our police cars and we turn them over to other departments all the time. Now, they don't have the exemption, but they're going to take those old cars, and we don't have any choice. I mean, those cars are going to go somewhere else. How is that going to affect this?
Yeah, usually, actually, the worst thing you can do is what we're doing. You're not supposed to do that. That's everywhere we're told. That's the worst thing you can do is decommission a police vehicle and turn it over to a department.
That's what I'm saying.
Please be quiet in the audience.
It's the
We
only
can hear
thing
you
we
here.
can do because it's the only place we can get vehicles. So this is a problem.
No, what I'm saying is we really shouldn't be. There's no need for some of the departments to have the police SUVs. There's been a preference. It's been a way to get it over to some of them. Well, frankly, we don't even need pickups for inspectional services. I'm looking at, you look at the Chevy Trax, you've got them with four-wheel drive, because they should have some clearance in four-wheel drive. It's about an $19,000 vehicle.
But you're going to have to buy vehicles.
Right. Well, the value of some of the vehicles that are being turned over from the police cruiser trade-in values probably 10 to 12 because these departments are getting some of the newer vehicles. So I think what you're pointing out is something that we're band-aiding right now.
Right.
And shouldn't happen in the future. It honestly should not happen.
So you don't have a problem then with the fact that you may not be able to take these police cars and hand them over to other departments?
No, I don't think we should be doing that anymore.
Okay.
I would say this is the last
Eric,
time we should.
I'm with you. I'm with you because you know what? I'd prefer them to have their own vehicles anyway. That would be my preference. I just know that money is always an issue. And I don't want to lock you into a place where you say all of a sudden, well, I just can't afford to give them a car.
Well, I can say that no
I'd
matter
hate
what.
to see the building inspector walking to his next job.
No matter what.
One was mildly impressed by the get up and go from the electric vehicles.
Yeah, I wouldn't consider that so much, but
No, thanks.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
So,
Ken, would you like to do a presentation for us so we understand better what we're doing?
Right. What we're trying to do is get our designation as a green community. It means a lot to, as a branding exercise, but it also means a lot in terms of money coming to the town. As soon as we get the designation as a green community, we have an opportunity to get about $165,000 to apply to our buildings, our vehicles.
Yeah,
our fleet.
fleets.
I hope to buy for new vehicles, apparently.
And after that, we'll have the opportunity to get up to $250,000 a year on a competitive basis for funds to reduce our energy demand and save our town some significant money in terms of energy costs. Now, what it takes is us to meet 5 criteria. The first criteria is zoning, and that we have already done by anybody who's seen the solar farm on Toby Road knows that our zoning is lax enough that it allows renewable energy to be built. The second criteria is expedited permitting, and that means that we're fast and efficient on getting permits out on renewable energy facilities. And I have the testimony from a letter from town council, Rich Bowen, who has signed the letter saying that we have been very efficient in our permitting and meeting the criteria of at least 180 days to issue permits. The third criteria is an energy baseline, where we've had engineers reviewing our buildings, both the municipal buildings and the school buildings, and reviewing the things like lights, water demand, our HVAC, our heating, ventilation, air conditioning in all the buildings, to determine what a baseline energy demand would be. And then what they'll do is they'll come up with an energy reduction plan. They will lay out steps to maybe replace windows, to replace power plants, to essentially meet that goal of reduced energy demand in our buildings. And with that money that we get each year in the competitive grants, we'll be able to use that $250,000, up to $250,000, to apply to these energy reducing measures. The fourth criteria is vehicles, energy efficient vehicles, which you've been discussing already. The fifth criteria is the stretch code, which we adopted in the, thank you very much.
Town meeting.
The fifth criteria is the stretch code, which was adopted in the spring town meeting. So we're almost there. What we need is to have the selectmen endorse the fuel-efficient policy. And later on, when we have the energy reduction base plan, I'll be back before you to get your vote on that plan as well. And then we should be prepared to submit for the October deadline for the Green Communities application for this year.
Thank you. Tony, any questions? Mary?
I don't.
Peter? Patrick?
No, he's ready to go. He seems to think he can handle it. I'm with you. If you can get the cars for them, it's okay with me.
There are fleet disposal companies that specialize in things like that.
Yeah. I just want to thank Ken for working this. We've been looking at this for 5 or 6 years. We've been putting it off, and as I've mentioned more than a few times, all of the stretch code was coming whether we liked it or not. So by delaying it, it was coming anyway, so.
Well, we already accepted it, so.
I know, but it was 4 years of waiting for no reason. So I'm asked for a motion. Pat,
Mr.
do you wanna
Chairman,
go ahead?
before if you, I would like to thank the residents of the community because
Yeah, they
we
accepted
brought it to them in town meeting and they listened and accepted it. And there's some other communities that haven't been so forthcoming to do that. So it's really thank the community for stepping up and doing that.
Thank you for mentioning that. I need a motion to accept the two
So
pieces,
moved.
efficient permitting and fuel-efficient vehicles.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Patrick, second by Mary. Any questions from the board? None heard, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 500.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ken.
Water. You else need one?
Okay, next comes the fun stuff.
Next is the town meeting warrant.
Yes, it is.
Now,
What's number 10?
Okay, I've got the score sheet here.
It's
Yeah.
number 10.
now we need to add one article to
Yeah, we'll
this.
do that at the end.
Let's
We know you have one.
let's do this one here. We have people from onset here, and I think, as Mary said, I think they're waiting on this one item here. No reason for people to have to stay around while we're back and forth.
Okay, yeah. CPC Lillian Gregerman Bandshell. Who's here for that?
Sandy Slavin, co-chair of CPC.
If the rest of you would introduce yourselves.
Amanda Cobb, OBA.
Thank you.
All we gotta do is put it on.
Cat Jones, Onset Bay Association.
So you want a new bandshell?
We would like one, yes.
And this,
one too. I'm in on it.
It's Derek's idea. No,
oh, okay.
I digress.
There you
Eric's
go.
in on this, too?
Oh, yeah.
That's a quick way to get it killed.
It is town property. We can't do this ourselves. In working at the band shell, if I may speak on the article for a moment, in offering these events over the years, we've seen the band shell kind of slowly slip into several states of disrepair. And I think it's time that we really address the issue. We have a lot to offer in Onset. We kind of see it as an economic engine for the community, and I don't have to tell you folks, how important what we're doing over there. We're stimulating the local economy, we're giving people things to do, and we're fostering a sense of community spirit and engagement. And we want to be able to do that in a safe manner. I think enough cosmetic repairs have been made to the band shell over the years that it's really finally time to address it fully and remodel it properly. Not only the band shell itself, but the grounds on which it sits. Just my 2 cents.
Anyone else like to say something in the group? We don't bite, it's okay. I just want to make one comment. At the Blues Festival, we had pretty bad weather, and it was very disappointing to see the headliner get up and almost electrocute herself trying to do a song.
It's scary.
It was
Yeah.
more than scary, actually. It was
Yeah.
really a shame. So I don't think we have any issues as far as the property itself or any of the other
No.
things, because we're basically taking the existing structure and replacing it in the same way as what we had before.
Mhm.
So I don't expect any issues to come up at all. Any questions, Tony?
No.
Mary?
No?
Peter?
None.
Patrick?
Nope.
No? Go ahead, dear.
Thank you. The original grant was submitted for $360,000. They went back and looked hard at the component regarding audio-visual, and that's why the article is now down to $333,000. All of it will be funded from the unallocated funds in CPA.
Thank you.
No, plans.
So this is a total demolishment and a rebuild of a larger band shell with storage, audiovisual included in it, et cetera. So it is a total replacement of what's there now.
Very good.
Any more questions from the board on the book? If not, we'll take a motion to put it on the warrant.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Patrick, a second by Mary, and Peter had something in the middle. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 500. Thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you very much, and I just want to thank you all publicly. Thanks, Derek, for all your time, and my team here, Joni and Amanda, have worked tirelessly to put all these packages and proposals together, so thank you, everyone, for your time.
Thanks for your work.
Appreciate the hard work of the OBA.
Thank you.
Thank you,
So you
guys.
Me too.
Do you want me to, are you going to do the rest of the CP articles? Do you want me to go sit down or stay here?
You can go sit down there.
Huh?
You can go sit down.
Okay, number one on the list, approve and fund fiscal year 19 capital plan. It's the standard
Move we
article.
put it on the warrant.
I have a question before, Mr. Sullivan. You wanted to take some of the capital items from the Water Pollution Control Facility and slip it on there or not?
Yeah, I think there's no need for us to have 18, 19, and 20 as separate articles. They're all part of the capital plan.
Yeah, but if we're going to take those three, if he's going to put
He's
it
just got a placeholder, though.
Right.
But what I'm saying is, it's not going to come out separate. It's going to be part of his capital plan that he brings forward.
Right, but he's going to have other items, too, that we don't know yet.
Yeah.
That's right. So we're just
Yeah.
not going to
So
deal
we're
with
gonna,
Yeah,
we're
we'll
gonna
blow those
take
off.
18, 19, and 20 off, right?
Correct.
Correct.
Okay, that makes sense. And then we're gonna move those to the capital article.
Well, it's up to Mr. Sullivan what he actually wants to bring forward.
Yeah, they've requested, so I'll
Right.
speak to the sewer commissioners,
Just a
but...
placeholder
right.
anyway.
Yeah,
Yeah.
There are questions on the three items, but I'm not going
We
to
don't
get
have
into
a
it here.
number yet
Yeah.
anyhow.
So
No need.
take a motion as modified.
So moved.
Need a second?
Second.
Motion by Patrick, second by Peter. Any questions from the other members? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained? Okay. Next.
Move we put the transfer of free cash on the warrant.
Mr. Sullivan, you have any information that we need?
Usually, we hope to have free cash certified before the October town meeting. That isn't always a guarantee. We just need to let everybody know. Stabilization fund, we'd seek to transfer approximately $150,000, and then OPEB, another $300,000. Our OPEB trust fund, we currently have over $700,000, which, it's only about 0.6% funded of the liability, but you all know, we're zero for a long time, so I appreciate everybody's efforts.
Yes.
And stabilization fund, we're at 3.3 million, which brings us over 5% of our operating budget. So
That's
we're
great.
doing
Good
great.
news.
Need a motion?
I said yes.
He did.
And we have a second?
Yep.
Okay, motion by Patrick, second by Peter. Any other questions on the board? None heard, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 500 to put it on
I
the
move
warrant.
we put the unpaid bills as a placeholder on there too,
Second.
because we don't know what they're gonna be.
Motion by Patrick, second by Peter. There's no discussion needed on this. All those in favor?
Aye.
Yep.
Opposed, abstained, 500.
Right, correct. At this time, we do not have any.
And this one, the transfer of McKinley Venti funds
Yeah.
is always on,
Every year.
so I move
Yep.
we put that on too.
Second.
I just have one question. They're not here, so they can't answer. The money goes into the Transportation Revolving Fund,
Correct.
and they pay what with that?
That would be any of the transportation expenses.
Okay, and it's,
Special ed transportation.
but it's not directed to the actual McKinney-Vento, what they're reimbursing for, which is out of district students having to be sent back and forth.
Right,
So it's just, it goes into a general revolving account.
right. We've already paid for it.
I
This
know.
is reimbursement.
Just-
It's a lot lower. Runs us, I'm going to guess it's between 30 and 40,000. We're checking to see if we've received the reimbursement yet.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I move that we put, by the way, this is wrong. It's the Deacon's School at Minot Forest.
No,
It's
I-
really the
we
corrected
didn't
name.
vote on the other one.
Oh, we didn't vote, I'm sorry.
You did the motion?
I did.
You
I
seconded?
did a second, yeah.
Motion by Patrick, second by Peter. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 500.
All right, so I move we put the Deacon's School, the new Deacon's School debt exclusion on the warrant.
Second.
Second?
Motion by Patrick, second by Peter. Any questions from the board?
No.
None heard, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 500 to put it on the warrant.
Patrick, do you want to change the title to Deacon's School at Minus Forest Debt Exclusion?
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
that's what they've decided for the name,
Yeah.
Deacon's School at Minot Forest.
Okay.
Names that'll be in there.
Yeah. Okay, the harbor service permit receipts reserved for appropriation account, I move we put that on the warrant.
Second, but I do have a question for the town administrator.
Yeah?
Go ahead.
I know that we have a petition article that seeks money for a dredging study. Is that covered in this article?
Yeah, there's 10,000 for a dredging study and the,
Okay, so that there has been a provision made to put that in. I mean, the
Correct.
petition articles go on the warrant by operational law regardless, but
I'd like to speak to that, please.
We're not there yet, sir.
so,
we're not to your article yet.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I'm trying to see if I can find that section here.
My question for town council would be, if we have two articles looking for the same money for the same thing?
Well, Mr. Chairman, I assume that if the petitioners got what they wanted when the first article was voted, there'd be a motion to pass over or indefinitely postpone the petitioned article when we got to that. I'd also suggest that the chairman yourself make a request of Madam Moderator that the two articles be taken up together at the same time, since the outcome of one could affect the outcome of the other.
Madam Moderator, could you come up for just a minute? I have a question for you. I don't want to do something without something being okay.
Oh.
Thank you, Claire. My question simply is, where it's not a money article, which is basically what we're allowed to ask to come forward, by the changes we did a while ago, is this something that we can request?
This is a money article.
It is, but it's not.
I think what Alan's getting at is in the, I can't remember if it's charter or bylaw, that the selectmen can request that a money article be taken out. So I think that's what he's asking. I mean, the moderator has a lot of discretion, and certainly, the two articles are related, and it would certainly be a consideration to take them together.
Okay, I just want to make sure we can do it and not be a problem.
Yep.
Chairman, it says dredge survey funding will be utilized to start the process of creating a dredge survey of the town of Wareham's waterways to include channels, mooring fields, and continued as well as future maintenance needs. This initial process will allow the town to apply for new grants gauged at targeting small dredge project needs.
Thank you. You have a motion on that?
No, we did the harbor, yeah, we did, the harbor service, yes.
No, we need a motion for it.
I made the motion.
Okay, second.
Any questions from the board on this? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 500.
All right, the next one is the PEG access account to fund WCTV. I move we put that on.
Second.
Pretty common.
This one you'll see at every town meeting from now on.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's what's required.
Do you want to explain that to the public so they understand? Because I think there's some confusion, even with some WCTV, members and stuff.
Really?
Well,
did
there
that
shouldn't
the
be, because
last
their
time.
director knows what's going on.
Yeah.
I'm saying just regular people who have just give their $10 or $15, dues.
Okay.
It might be just, if you can humor me for 2 minutes.
I can
and
give
just
it.
explain.
I can give it. Explain it.
Either one of you, I don't care.
It used to be, before the Municipal Modernization Act passed, that we could just act as a pass-through. We would receive the funds from the cable company, and then we would just send them a check. Unfortunately, what we have to do now is we have to put it in a revolving fund, and then every 6 months, we have to appropriate out of the revolving fund for them to get their money. So that's why this article is going to be on for the rest of our lives, unless the legislature changes it and goes back to the old way.
That's it, man.
That's lawyer speak, by the way.
It's not revolving.
Yes.
Motion made and seconded, yes, sir.
Any questions from the board so that everybody understand? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 500.
All right, this is a CPC, returned unused funds from completed projects. This is, we don't know what they are yet, but we should put this on.
They've already got the numbers there.
Make the motion, we put this on there.
Second.
Motion by Patrick, second by Tony. Any questions from the board? Not heard, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 500.
Okay, the next one is the housing units.
Yeah, this one I would suggest we not put on. We have an exact duplicate petition article from, the lead petitioner is actually the chairman of the Housing Authority. We have to take that one up anyway at town meeting. So why have two articles that we have to publish, print, put the little balls in, you know, Madam Moderator has to deal with, the body has to deal with, FinCom has to hear about it twice, blah, 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 blah. I vote we not put this on,
Okay.
or make the motion
Second.
to not put it on.
Is there a second?
May I speak?
No.
So,
Yes, you can actually, because it's under yours.
can we go back to Article 8 for a second, too, while we're having the proponent? Sam, do you mind if I ask you a question about Article 8?
What is 8?
You don't have to run away.
Oh, what is 8?
It's the unused funds.
Yes,
Do we need to, through CPC, to bring that to town meeting?
yes.
Okay.
It's my understanding that all changes to the funds within the CPA funds must be approved by town meeting, even the return of unused items. What you have is $35,000 coming over from a grant that was given for a recent land purchase off of Wee Wee Antic, Father Bill's and that complex, we got a grant for the land, and a few dollars left over from the Historical Society, Historical Society Methodist Meeting House project. Those two are closed.
Okay, so if we needed to do it for the CPA, that's fine from,
Yes.
seems like from accounting
I don't
method,
think I
we
have the
don't.
authority to do it without town approval. I can try, but I won't.
You,
I know,
I'll keep my
workarounds.
mouth shut.
Okay.
You can also...
I want to comment on the article for the Housing Authority. Back in 2015, we, CPC, supported a grant request for $504,000 for 6 units. It failed to go on the warrant. 2016, we submitted $453,000 for more units, and now we're looking for $930,000 because, of course, the price went up big time. So we've tried twice to get it through the Selectmen to go to the town meeting, and I'm sorry to hear that you will deny it a third time.
It's not a matter of denying it for denying it on its face. It's because we already have a petition article for the same thing, and for the interest of reduced printing costs, reduced publishing costs, and everything else, it's silly to have two articles seeking the same thing.
And I promised I would not talk to the citizens' article.
Well, you're not the lead petitioner, so he would be the only one to talk to it as well. Plus, we haven't invited the petitioners tonight anyway, so...
Thank you.
Okay.
Welcome.
Yes, dear.
Yes, dear.
Okay, so,
Motion is to not put it on.
Yes.
Yes. Second.
We had a motion by Peter, second by Tony. Any questions from the board?
Yeah, so if we
Yeah,
do
Mary.
put this on, isn't this the same as the last
It's the
one? If the
same.
first one passes, then you just get rid of the second one, or no?
The problem with the other one was because the other one, the $10,000 is part of a $146,000 appropriation. It's not an even match between the articles. With this, both articles are asking for exactly the same thing.
They mirror each other in this...
They mirror each other, so there's no point in having both.
doesn't, no sense in...
The other article was for $146,000 for harbor receipts. If, for example, we didn't put on the harbor master's article, he might get the $10,000 he's looking for dredging out of it, but then the harbor master wouldn't be able to spend the other $136,000.
Right.
So it's not an even match.
Okay.
Yeah, and I mean, it's the same article, it's, you know, I don't know why they did it that way, I don't know why they just didn't leave it one way, but they did it, so we'll just move on.
I'm not going to comment, I'll get in trouble.
Okay, so number 11 is the Tremont,
Well,
oh,
we
did
gotta-
you want to take a vote? Yeah.
You all set, Mary?
Well, my other question would be, what if both articles pass? Just,
It won't if we don't put it on,
Yeah.
so
Right, if you don't
won't be
put
an
it
issue.
on.
Yep.
well, I'm saying, if you put them both on and they both, I mean, I'm just asking a dumb question, but.
Then there'd be 12 units for $1.86 million.
Exactly.
Yep, and I don't think there's enough money to pay for all that, so it would be very interesting.
Yes, there is.
I don't think the Attorney General would, seeing two articles identical, would probably come back at us.
Okay.
Thank you all. Thank you, Mrs. Slavin.
You want us
We
to
have a
vote?
new
I think
vote.
you have a couple more of mine to go.
We have a vote.
Can you vote?
We have a vote.
Yes, we have to vote.
We have to vote on this one,
All in favor?
on the motion not to.
Aye.
I'm getting there.
Okay,
Did you vote?
slow, not until you ask for it.
I just did.
He just said yes. Did everybody vote?
What did you,
Said aye. We're
Favor
not
of not
putting
putting it
this
on,
on.
aye.
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 Thank you all.
That one-
500.
Okay, next is the Tremont Nail remediation. I move we put it on the warrant.
Sandy, you make me we were going back and forth. Do you want that adjustment, that it's not on the, and I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, if you mind.
Go
if I-
ahead, it's okay. You owe me.
You had the concern that I was going to say that the bond shall be intended to be paid from reserve for.
I was concerned when CPC submitted the article, we indicated that the money would come from undesignated funds. We do not have enough in the Historic Preservation Reserve, or do we get enough each year to pay the expected bond payment? So when I received the bond wording, which I knew would be coming, I just wanted to make sure where it says is the bonds or note is intended to be paid from funds reserved from preservation restriction, historic preservation. I just wanted to make sure that if that word is intended, would allow us to take money from any source in CPC as opposed to strictly from the reserve. The word intended threw me, and I just wanted a confirmation that we can use whatever funds would be available, not just the historic reserve, which would not have enough money in it.
Well, we'd be doing it with the best of intentions.
Mr. Sullivan or Mr. Bowen?
It doesn't,
We'll work with it and take that concern under advisement.
Okay, I mean, there is money in undesignated, not in historic reserve.
you can always transfer from undesignated into historic as well.
I really would want two more articles to be present.
Okay.
You want
I
less
thought you liked
articles,
duplicate
Sandy?
articles.
There's your line.
So the motion
Well-
made and seconded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained,
Okay.
500.
All right, I move we put the Community Preservation Fund Reserve adjustment on the warrant.
Mr. Chairman, sorry, Mr. Clerk, there,
We do every year.
yeah, at the end of the article would be with the motion before you reach the or do or act, because that wouldn't be in the motion, obviously. It will state, comma, or other CPA funds, which should cover it.
Okay.
Okay?
You make that change,
Yep.
because we have to basically get this to the,
Printer on Thursday, the warrant
oh, it has,
published.
yeah, it has to
Posted.
actually go out to the constable for the 13th.
Yep.
Right, we need to assemble tomorrow with
Tomorrow,
some of the
I'll take a
I'll work
staffing.
with Derek on it, we'll
Yep.
get it done.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you. As I said, I was concerned that I could be tied into funds that were not available.
Appreciate it.
Thanks.
I think you have one more for me?
Yep, Community Preservation Fund Reserve adjustment. I move we put it on the warrant.
Second.
Any questions from the board?
No questions?
No.
I underestimated our expected revenue, and therefore had to put up an additional 10% aside for these two reserves.
That's fine.
You made a mistake.
Okay.
Better underestimating than
Motion
overestimating.
by Patrick, second by
Thank you.
Me.
Peter. Any questions from the board? None heard? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 500.
So the next ones, I'm going to take them all three together. 13, 14, 15, and 16 are all zoning articles.
I need to abstain
Oh,
from
do you?
13, so if you'll
All
take
right.
that one separately.
All right, I'll do
so does-
13
so does
separately.
Mary.
Yeah.
All right, I move we put 13, amend the zoning bylaws, Article 4, overlay districts on the warrant.
Second.
Just as an explanation, because both Mary and Peter are voting members of the redevelopment authority, is why they were abstaining. They could also file with the clerk, basically a disclosure which would allow them to vote, but to make everything above board, they're basically both abstaining. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining?
Aye.
Okay.
302.
All right, now, all these other zoning bylaws, 14, 15, 16, and 17, I move we put them on the warrant, which are, and I'll read them quickly for you.
17.
I'm sorry, not 17. Okay, so that would be the bylaw for Article 5 supplemental regulations, density and dimensional regulations, and the sign, which is 14, 15, and 16.
Need a second?
Second.
Motion by Patrick, second by Tony. Any questions from the board?
Nope.
None heard, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained?
We still,
0,
we
Ken?
still need this
think we're all set
transfer
for
for the
you.
water pollution control, right?
What do you want to do with that, Mr. Sullivan?
What are you doing with that?
It's not me. It's, I spoke to the chairman. They're not, then I spoke to another member. I don't believe that they're ready. They put this as a placeholder. However, they've received grant funds for it. I don't officially have a vote of the sewer commissioners saying they don't want it on there.
All right,
It's
we can
just-
hold off. No, we can't. We're going to
Can't.
do it tonight.
Can't we have to do it?
The issue I have, I think they're getting a grant of
Right.
like $82,000,
We just put it on. right?
Yeah.
and they want the town to come up with $600,000.
Well, we'll just put it on and they can deal with it. We'll see how it works out.
If the sewer commissioners request that it not go forward at town meeting, I would expect the residents to maybe, yeah.
To table it, yeah, to pass over.
That'd be fine.
Yeah,
I
okay.
shouldn't say expect, I would hope.
Motion.
you know,
All right, so I
think
move
they'd
we
listen
put
to
17, the transfer of funds for water pollution control, on the warrant.
Second.
Second.
Motion by Patrick, second by Peter. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 500.
All right, so the next ones are, all of those are
Three.
petition articles. We don't have to vote on them.
Well, no. We got screw press, bypass pump trailer, and...
No,
They were off.
we moved those off.
They went
Moved
to
them
capital
off.
plan.
Those articles are
Did
going
we actually
away.
vote to move those off, though? I don't think we did.
Yes, we
Yeah,
did.
we
I think
did.
just
We
talked
did.
about the capital
No,
planning
no,
article.
we voted to move them off.
Yeah.
So 18, 19, and 20 are gone.
Well, why did you, just double check if it's, I know you sort of talked about Article 1 and said as amended, but
No,
didn't
no, we
really.
moved it over, but we'll do it again if you want.
As amended
I
by
just wanted
taking
to-
17, those three articles.
Okay.
Well,
Do you want to just,
As clerk of the sewer, may I make a comment?
Sure.
actually, yeah, on the transfer of funds?
Sandy Slavin, Clerk of the Sewer Commissioners. We're asking for the vacuum trailer and the bypass. We have not submitted the screw article, the press. That was not submitted to Town Hall today.
So no screw
No screw
article.
article.
so that one's screwed.
That one,
Through the article.
it was felt that it was a little too excessive, and there's an alternative in the works in another town, therefore it was taken off of hold and asked that it was not to be submitted.
Okay, so I'll take that under advisement.
you've got
for-
two-
For my
Capital
grid.
plan?
Yep, for
Right.
the
Okay.
grid.
And we've
So
already
there's-
moved them all to the thing. If he chooses to do it,
Yeah,
they're already all over there for him to do whatever he wants.
Sandy, Article 7, I'm sorry,
Go
Mr.
ahead.
Chairman.
No, go ahead.
The Article 17, the transfer of funds for the...
Water Warriors?
Water Warriors. They just voted to keep it on there since there's kind of so much in the air over it. but there's-
Understand
There's grant
it's
monies attached.
part of our capital planning meeting tomorrow, but to be transferred to your capital one, there's only two articles that were voted on by the sewer commissioners. The article for the screw was not voted on to submit to town meeting, so I only wanted two to be transferred. No screwing.
Well, it's up to him to fill out the capital plan.
Anyway, he can do whatever he wants
Yeah.
when he does it, so.
So Sandy, what's the capital items outside of Article 17, the other three capital items?
Will be under your
You're right.
capital umbrella, as
Correct.
it should have been.
Yeah,
Yes.
so we're not going to put them as separate
Totally
articles.
understand.
Okay.
All right?
Thank you.
Okay. No problem. All right, so these three don't mean anything because they're petition articles, and we just have one more to add, and that's the sign, not the sign, what do you call it? The
Yeah,
pump.
I think what you mean by it is we can't, you're not voting on because they go on by operation of law.
Correct. We don't need to vote on
Yeah.
them.
and
No, we
actually,
don't.
One of the petition articles, the laying out of the Windsor Drive,
It's been withdrawn, right?
been withdrawn.
Well, they submitted and said they'd like to withdraw on the sheet of submission with everybody's signature, but it wasn't a signature page saying, we request to remove.
Yeah, but that's not the reason why.
Yeah.
The way we do this, we have a set series of how the selectmen bring an article forward to accept as a public way, and they're not able to complete all the
Steps in time.
requirement steps for us to do this. So basically, even though it comes through as a citizen petition, it looks like it really isn't. What it is the people who live on the road, as part of the requirement for us to submit it, have to sign that they want to do it. What's happened is they're not going to have the survey done, therefore it can't meet the regulations that we need. Therefore, as a board, we would not put it on the warrant.
The problem is that it has to go on the warrant because you've got more than 10 petitioners who signed the thing, and while the lead petitioner said, well, we want to withdraw it, you don't have the assent of all the other petitioners to withdraw it.
Yeah, but I'm looking at Mr. Bowen.
Rich
I'm looking at it
has a...
different way.
The lawful way to do it is to put it on the warrant because that's what the law requires. And when we get to town meeting, to reject it, table it, indefinitely postpone it.
Okay.
My favorite Jewish holiday, Passover, any of those things. I had to get back at them.
Making fun of me for.
All right,
putting
so it
words
doesn't
together.
matter, these three things we don't have to deal with anyway right now because we don't put them on. Now, where's the article for the house numbers?
All right, now I've emailed that to you. It's not on this document.
Mr. Bowen, before we continue.
Oh, yes, sir.
We need to look at our process of how we accept, requests for public roads, because we're saying it's a citizen's petition now, the way we have it set up.
Well, with respect, Mr. Chairman, when it comes to a street acceptance, people can petition for whatever they want. And not to be flip, but they could petition to change the name of the country. And even if it were voted at town meeting unanimously, it would have no legal effect. So all town meeting does not accept roads or streets. What it does is it approves the Board of Selectmen's layout of a street, and I know you know this, this is more for the public. So unless the Board of Selectmen actually lays out the street in accordance with state law and your policy, there's nothing for town meeting to do. So petition away, but unless you follow the process, nothing's going to happen.
Right.
Understand.
Thank you.
All right, house numbers, we'll call it house numbers, what are you calling it?
I call it the street numbering article.
Okay.
I've emailed it to the board. If I can just give you some brief background. The town currently has a street numbering bylaw at Division 3, Article 1. Town meeting has been voting on the article as it currently exists since at least 1916. The significant features of the bylaw as it exists now is it appears to address mostly circumstances that existed 100 years ago, and it is more of an advisory document telling the road commissioners how they should be laying out or numbering streets. At Selectman Tropiano's request, what I've done is I've drafted an article which adds some new language to the existing language. It does 5 different things. Number 1, it imposes a duty on the owner or occupant of each house, building, or structure to put up street numbers. Number 2, it specifies the minimum height of the street numbers. In this case, it says that they should be 3 inches in height and visible from the road or street. It requires that the numbers be affixed to the front door or as close to the front door as is possible. It deals with situations where there are multiple buildings or structures located on a private way and outlines how those numbers should be affixed so that they are visible from a public way. It provides an enforcement mechanism. Each new building shall be identified in accordance with the bylaw before a certificate of use and occupancy may be issued. So it, unlike the current bylaw, it actually provides some teeth. The current bylaw doesn't specify much in the way of enforcement. The additions specify that the bylaw may be enforced by any police officer or building commissioner. It also cites that the bylaw may be enforced by non-criminal disposition. So it means that not every violation is automatically a trip off to district court.
Right.
So, although it could be if somebody doesn't follow through on the citation that they get. So,
It's funny, it's so hard to try to save people's lives.
you know, you would like to think that it would be easier.
You would think it would be easy, but apparently it's not.
The additions that I've made to the bylaw, each one of them has been approved by the Attorney General in other communities. So we know that they should pass the Attorney General test.
Okay.
So that's what it is.
We need a public hearing for this?
No.
Thank you.
All right.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, I do recommend, however, that the board refer the draft, well, the article now, over to the road commissioners for their review, since it's primarily their responsibility. And if they have any suggestions, we certainly could work those into the motion.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I move we put it on the warrant.
Need a second on that?
Second.
Are we putting it on as a placeholder?
Yeah, well, if it's going to go to the road commissioners, it might get a change, so yeah.
Yeah, we should put it, that's what I mean, it should go on as a placeholder
Yeah,
then. But we'll cook up the language tomorrow.
yeah,
We know what the intent is.
exactly.
Motion by Patrick, second by Tony. Any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained? 500.
That's it. That's the whole thing.
We're done. Good put.
That's it.
Believe it or not.
We need a motion to close the fall.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Peter, second by Patrick. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 500. This has to go up by the 13th.
Yeah, work with Derek, we'll get it done tomorrow.
Item E came up because we had a candidate who wanted to go house to house soliciting votes. We actually have a soliciting permit fee in the books.
Good.
Anyone who does that. We've never, that I know of, actually made any candidate pay for that. So the particular candidate kind of complained, and I gave them a pass. But we need to make, basically, if we're going to change it, we need to make a change in the policy, or basically leave it that there is a fee that they have to pay no matter what.
So we're going to make an exception for the political candidate who might be 5 times more annoying than the Fuller brush man?
Absolutely. So
I say no.
Yeah.
Everybody pays.
Yeah, it's up to the board. I'm just,
I would like to have it cleaned up because the staff, I don't think it was
not
fair.
a pleasant deal.
Yeah, I don't think it's fair the way they interacted with our staff.
I don't either, but that's why I'm bringing it
Well,
up.
I don't need to know who, but
Doesn't matter at this point.
Well, you know, I don't know who the political candidate is. I don't really care who the political candidate is. But, you know, it's always been my opinion that politics has a certain exemption when it comes to, you know, signs and things of that nature, because it's really a freedom of speech issue. It's part of what we do. You know, it's part of how we run our country. It's part of how we run our town. It's part of what we do. So I wouldn't be in favor of of the fee at all. I think for political candidates, we should just eliminate it.
Well, my feeling is you got freedom of speech on the sidewalk, but you don't at somebody's front door. And you should get a permit from the town to do this, because whenever these people go out banging on doors and wanting to talk and blah, 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 our cops get inundated with calls. Who is this? And what are they doing? And yada, yada, yada. And it creates some disruption. So I think there should be a little bit of offset for that. If they've got to pay $100 to do it, I don't see what the big deal is.
You know, let's check with council about political and religious.
Yeah, I think we should ask Rich about that. Rich, can you tone in here, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you to the members of the board. If we intend to charge fees for things that are protected by the First Amendment and Article 16 of the state constitution, I respectfully request that the legal budget be doubled.
Exactly.
Knocking on my door is a right conferred upon my dog and nobody else.
And
At least on my property.
And you can put up a sign that says no solicitors.
Yeah, I would say for religious purposes and for the purposes of political candidates that we do not charge a fee.
With your permission, Mr. Chairman, I think Selectman Tropiano was on the right path there. I don't think that we want to narrow it specifically to politicians and preachers. Anything that is associated with free speech. And, off the top, I couldn't tell you what it might be, but what I can tell you is that there's a difference between commercial speech and free speech.
Right.
The Fuller Brush man, that's commercial speech. You can tell him to skedaddle. You can make him pay a fee.
All right, I made a motion for what he said.
Sorry, folks, I tried to save you from these intrusions, and I just got run over.
Motion by Patrick / Bowen. We have a new selectman, it's Patrick Bowen. I need a second.
Second.
Second by Tony. Any questions from the board?
No.
This is a good one. All those in favor?
Aye.
What the hell? Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? 500. This is going to be a fun one. We're
All
gonna come up on this one.
Charter Review Committee discussion. You have something you want to do with that?
Yeah, Charter Review Committee,
Time, right?
yeah, when the calendar year ends in a 9, the Charter Review Committee gets, by our charter, gets reestablished, and normally you give them a year and a half in which to do whatever needs to be done. We did that back 10 years ago now.
Yes, we did.
Yes, I know, I chaired that committee. It was a wonderful experience. What I'm asking for is the public, for those who are interested in being on a Charter Review Committee, please come to the Selectman's office and just fill out the form and explain why you'd like to do it, and then we'll probably, within about a month or so, we'll start to make appointments to the committee so they get started to go. Simple as that.
Okay, next up is the acceptance of a donation from Ashley Faye Amando Memorial Fund.
Excuse me, I thought we were going to talk to my article.
No, your citizen's petition article.
An automatic.
You'll be invited at a later meeting.
I'm sorry, but you didn't recognize me,
Don,
and we didn't get to talk about it.
please.
Done.
Citizens
Petitioners will be invited.
Citizens,
Petitioners will be invited to a later meeting to discuss the articles. That will be Mr. Paulides
all we're doing,
and
When
you.
will that take place?
all we're doing today is putting articles on the warrant. Next piece, starting on the 18th, is we basically sit there and vote whether we approve or disapprove the articles, which goes on to the actual handle to the public.
I thought that's what you were doing tonight.
That is not what we're doing tonight.
Excuse me, please explain to me what you were doing tonight, then.
What does it say on the agenda, Don?
Excuse me?
What does it say on the agenda? Item C.
On the agenda,
Go ahead, just read it.
it says, "Discussion and vote on submitted articles to put on the fall town meeting."
That's right. So to put on there, not to discuss whether we're in favor or not in favor. And same thing that the Finance
No,
Committee
I-
does.
And what I'm referring to is that I had asked to speak at this article because it sounds like you just railroaded this through and said that my article is not going to go forward?
No.
We didn't say that at all.
Your article, because it's a petition article, Don, it goes on by operation of law. We don't even get to vote it on or off.
Thank you.
Automatically on the warrant.
And I apologize because
Yeah, you'll be invited to a subsequent meeting, and that's up to the chairman as to when he wants to schedule it, but you'll be invited to a subsequent meeting to explain what it is you're looking for when we're in the process of doing with our votes to recommend. But this is on the warrant already.
Don, do you want to take this back?
I will take that back.
Yeah, I think this was more out of anger you were throwing up here than was that out of anger you were tossing that us? Okay.
I've seen that because basically that says that it was a a petition that was put forward, and it was accepted by the town, and what town that accepted it, and that's all I was saying.
Okay.
So, but
We've got to move on.
my
now.
question is, you said you're going to hold this on the 18th?
18th, because they want to...
But I'm automatically on the article. The article is, that my article that I put forward is going to be on the warrant.
It is.
Thank you very
Absolutely.
much. And I'm sorry I jumped up, but I thought I had been passed over for...
Nope.
No, you have not.
Because I couldn't quite hear everything that was going on.
In fact, you're on there
Thank you very
twice,
much,
you
and thanks
just
for your
don't know it.
patience.
All right, next up, we need to accept a $1,200 gift from Ashley Faye Amando Memorial Fund and some POW MIA flags in various sizes from the Friends of the Wareham Veterans Council.
Second.
Second.
Any questions from the board? None heard, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstain?
Finally, something
5-0-0.
easy.
It's always-
Okay, vote to release peer review funds submitted by Aged Inc. Release funds, here we go. Aged Inc. was a marijuana retail facility that was not chosen as one of the marijuana retailers in the town. They submitted a $5,000 review fee for the peer review and are requesting a release of the funds. I move we give them back their $5,000.
Second.
Second.
Motion by Patrick, second by Peter. Any questions from the board? None heard, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, next up is the
5-0-0.
Derek, you didn't make that non-refundable? Silly boy.
FEMA
Even I'm not that
proposed
big of a
flood
jerk.
hazard determination for Plymouth
We
County.
tried on that one, Mary.
This is for you, because there's nothing in the folder.
Actually, it's Ken.
Oh,
The reason I asked to put this on,
Uh-oh.
we basically, the current maps are in. They've been available downstairs in the Inspectional Services Department. Most of the changes are inland rather than along the coast, but it's really incumbent upon all the residents in Wareham to come and take a look. We have, I think, Ken, about a year before the new insurance rates kill us all, basically. And so if anybody has any issues, they need to start looking at it now, because I think we have about a 6-month window. The town has to sign off how many days from now?
We have, actually, for technical review, that it's 90 days from
Correct.
today that we have to have the response into the FEMA office.
Why don't I let you continue so I don't make a mess of it?
But the FEMA revised the coastal floodplain maps back in 2012 and 2014 along the coastline, and there was a lot of pain caused by that. And so now we have new floodplain maps on the inland sections of town, not on the coastal areas. But as of April of 2018, the change in the flood designations, I scanned them. They are reviewed. I reviewed them with the Conservation Commission agent. And I want people to be aware that these maps reduce the flooding in some areas and expand it in other areas. But I think it behooves everybody who's within the community to understand whether or not they are in a floodplain and how that affects them. For those interested or concerned, you can find the maps online at the FEMA website, the town website, or you can visit Town Hall. I'm going to leave this downstairs at the Conservation Commission office, this set of plans. And we have some time to ask FEMA for revisions, but they have to be made based on good technical information. On a related note, we are now going to be able to provide some of that technical information. We have received a $63,000 grant from the state's Municipal Vulnerability Program to assess who and what is in harm's way in Wareham for coastal flooding and sea level changes. We also received a FEMA grant for $36,000 to prepare a multi-hazard mitigation plan. If we complete the FEMA-approved hazard mitigation plan, this will allow us to receive certain types of non-emergency disaster assistance, including funding for construction mitigation projects. Hazard mitigation reduces the loss of life property, the lessening the impacts of disasters, and as the name implies, it applies to as many hazards as we can foresee. flood, drought, forest fire, tornado, locusts.
Locust, huh?
I had a locust in my backyard the other day.
Boll weevil, too.
Did you eat it?
He's having fun with
Kids picked it up, actually.
So if people want to have more information on their flood hazard, we're going to be producing that in the meantime. People should know what their flood elevation is in relationship to their property.
Any questions from the board? Tony?
No,
Mary?
What's a construction mitigation project? What would that be?
It could be the expansion of a culvert underneath the road to allow floodwaters to flow easier.
I knew
Could
that.
be repair of a dam.
We have some causeways that, we have to build up around them and such, so,
We have some culverts
yeah.
that cause flooding in people's homes.
Sure do.
It's okay. It's what it is.
It is what it is.
Mr. Sullivan's treat there.
No, you understand we're getting rid of catch basins and going back to all natural drainage.
Absolutely.
A river runs through it.
I think that's a movie.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hold on. I just want to say, and I've got to say this because I think this whole redesign that FEMA went through is in some method a disgusting display of a governmental power when they take, and as far as I'm concerned, all they have done is take the cost of those hurricanes that hit down in the Gulf and spread the cost all over the rest of us. And I think it's absolutely disgusting that they do that kind of thing. The hurricane didn't happen here, and when our hurricanes hit, we have to pay for our hurricanes. When they hit down there, they got to pay for theirs. And it has everything to do with the damn insurance companies. And now some people in this town are going to have to give up their damn houses because FEMA decides to add distance to the height of where the water would possibly come in. So it goes from 15 feet that it's been for years to 17.3 feet. And there's people who have spent money to put their houses up on stilts who are out of the freaking flood zone who are now back in the flood zone. And they spent a fortune to get them out of the flood zone. And I don't care what's going on. I don't like it. And, this is, as far as I'm concerned, this is government at its worst. Absolutely at its worst. And I just had to say that because I'm just disgusted by it. I know a guy right now over on Water Street that may lose his house because he won't be able to afford the insurance. Either that or have to go without it. And if the house gets wiped out, he won't be able to replace it. It's just, and I'm not yelling at you, please. Make you understand that you're not the target of this. Pretend FEMA's standing behind you somewhere, all right? But it is ridiculous, and it's not fair. It's not fair, and especially in a low-end community like ours where we have a lot of people who have owned the houses for years and years, and they can barely survive with what they got. It's not right. It's absolutely not right, and it's disgusting, and as much as we've tried, we've sent letters, we've done everything else, and they don't care. They just run over you like you're, like you don't matter to anybody. It's disgusting. Anyway.
Florida's insurance rates are still less than...
No.
No?
No. It's simple. Just so everybody understands, the storm that's coming in, that's going to hit North Carolina, I hope people understand. If you've ever been down there, we used to go up and down the Intercoastal with a boat and stuff. And if you want to see low-lying areas where 30, 40 miles up inside where boats, I think it was Hugo, there were boats physically 30 miles from the marinas.
Yeah.
They push that far up inside with the hurricanes. This one here is probably going to be close to 30 miles more in wind velocity, et cetera. So if you think the FEMA insurance is in tough shape now, wait until this one comes, because this one, there's nothing stopping this one.
Yeah, right, because you know what? They'll just cost shift it again to everybody else around the country. And the people that are living there, that get the benefit of it all, they won't have to, it won't make any difference. They'll shift it up here.
One of the interesting things I saw was the historic line of storms that have come up this way. And Wareham has been really, really lucky for
Yes.
a long time.
Yeah,
Don't
has
say
been.
anything.
Well, the last hurricane we had was, what, 91?
Bob.
So it's been a while.
It wasn't a direct hit.
No, it was not.
Actually, it came right up Buzzards Bay,
Yeah, but it was low. It was just the,
right smack up the bay.
it was-
Perfectly like a beeline right up the bay.
it was the timing and it was a low wind compared to the others. Either way, thank you again.
All right.
Appreciate it. Sorry it's a late night for you.
All right, next up is, let's see, Deborah Hood, event manager. Buzzards Bay Coalition is requesting some signs for a bike for clear water, 35, 70, and 100-mile routes from Rhode Island to Cape Cod, and they're requesting to put some signs out on the corner of Charge Bond Road, Onset Pier, First Citizens, Federal Credit Union, the Depot Street, WCTV, Town Green, Bessie Park, and the corner of the Atlantic Motel.
But the Bessie Park, they can't do. It's historical, and also the Town Green, they can't do.
Okay, so...
They can't do the town green, they can do the bump out by Bessie Park on the,
Yes.
on the corner
Okay,
in
so
front of
they-
the homestead.
They actually put it by the bridge.
Yeah,
over
Right,
there. They
okay,
can't
so
do it.
I'm gonna put,
It's actually already out.
I'm sure.
I put bump out by Bessie Park, I changed it, and Town Green I
Actually,
crossed off.
Bump out by Toby Homestead is what it is.
What are these, are these like directions, or are these
No, it's
advertising
it's a
it?
standard little,
Standard.
you know, 3x4.
Stake signs.
Stake signs.
They're advertising it.
Yeah, they're already out.
All right,
They're a little late applying.
all right, I made the correction. I move we approve the request.
I need a
Second.
Second.
Motion by Patrick, second
Oh,
by
shoot.
Peter. All in favor?
Aye.
Sign any of that.
5-0-0.
Nope, everything's done.
Oh,
Everything's
good.
done.
Okay, perfect. I thought it was,
Any other business not
None.
Tony,
anticipated?
anything from you? Mary?
nope.
No,
Peter?
no.
Patrick?
Nope.
Alan, no.
Town administrator?
Oh, come
Nothing.
No. Just no.
No?
I like that.
on. Okay,
Liaison reports?
initial reports. Tony, anything?
Nope.
Mary,
No.
anything? Don't look at me.
Not from this country.
I'm good tonight.
Okay, I'm never good, you know that. I did go to the sewer commissioner meeting on the 6th. I still am concerned with the Woodland Cove project. There was a study done, I think it was $9,000, to see whether or not we had capacity, et cetera. They did not actually have a copy of the report, the sewer commissioners themselves. I did see yesterday a copy of the report finally, in which the report says that the 2 pump stations can handle the capacity coming in. The report also says that the facility can handle it coming in, but at the same time, it talks about when that load goes in there, it could over capacity the plant at the time they all come in, and there's a chance that the lagoons could, where the excess would go, because, again, everybody has to remember, it's not how much comes in, it's how much goes out. We're limited to 1.5 million gallons per day max on output, and the report actually said there's a good chance the lagoons could flood. If the lagoons flood, that means you have toxic waste all over the land everywhere, which is extremely expensive to fix and clean up, et cetera. So as of right now, that's not part of it, because the sewer said they were fine because they could accept, you know, the loads. But the problem is more than just whether you can accept, it's whether you can process and handle it. So I'm hoping that the ZBA gets some information from somebody, hopefully maybe somebody from the sewer commission
Well,
will show up at the ZBA meeting on the 12th, which is when they're probably going to most likely close the hearing, and make sure that information gets in there, because that is an expense to the town that I don't think we want to bear.
I will call Guy and Jim, like I say, and I will have them there to present that report to, during that meeting, the last meeting, if it's the last meeting.
Appreciate
What pump station will that go to?
Necessarily have
There's
to.
2 pump stations they listed. Mrs. Slavin, do you know what they are? Come on now. There's 2 pump
Well,
stations
there's
listed
the
for
one
that
on
project,
Cranberry Highway, which is where, across from,
but they're listing 2.
yeah,
Okay.
there's
All
that
right,
one.
No, it's fine, it's not worth,
All
that's
right, but
just,
there's 2 pump stations plus the facility. And the answer was that, yes, the 2 pump stations could handle the flow, and the facility could take the flow in, but the problem was processing it and hitting that 1.5, et cetera.
Right.
And if we had a bad storm like we've had before, with everything else coming in with the I&I, because what it basically said, so everybody understands, the issues with I&I, which is the infiltration, and a few of the other things going on at the plant, create the situation where we exceed 1.5 million, and therefore the stuff has to be diverted into lagoons. And as lagoons flood, that means all that waste goes all around that area, and therefore you have basically,
You know, initially,
We almost had that happen
we did have it happen.
recently.
actually.
the first few meetings I went to with the ZBA, there was a push to have them install holding tanks at the 40B property, and that just suddenly vanished.
Never
I'm
did
more
it.
concerned that the report that was done wasn't really brought forward all the way through.
Well, we'll have to get it there tomorrow.
So I
Well-
would ask that somehow something happened.
Yep.
there. That's really all I have. I did not do my Mass Municipal Association meetings today, and I didn't do the state,
You had to wait for
Lieutenant
sundown.
Governor, et cetera, so.
Okay. So we have minutes from August the 14th. Mary and Anthony were not here, so you might not want to vote on these. I move we approve the minutes of August the 14th, 2018.
Second.
Motion by Patrick, second by Peter. Any questions? None heard, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain?
Aye.
3-0-2.
Bingo. That's it for the consent agenda. Only one thing left to do.
Move to go home.
Motion to adjourn?
Move to go home. That's a good one. Is that debatable?
No.
Is that a debatable motion? All right.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Good night, Wareham.
Good night.